What is Scrum and why is it essential in software development? In this video, I'll dive into that and more. Hi there, my name is Josh and I'm one of the founders of Product HQ. And this video is for anyone who wants to get into software development and manage SaaS products effectively. I'll talk about what Scrum is and how it helps organizations solve complex challenges. Before we dive into all that though, take a moment to subscribe to our channel, and that way, whenever we come out with future videos on how to build great products and the processes and the tips and tricks to do so, you'll be first in line to know. Now, Scrum is a lightweight agile framework that enables people, teams, and organizations in project management or product development to solve complex problems and challenges with using various rules, roles, events, and things called artifacts, which we'll go over. And in general, Scrum focuses on cross-functional teamwork to deliver products and services in shorter developmental cycles, which results in faster feedback, continuous improvement, increasing adaptability to change, and accelerated development, leading to quicker release cycles of innovative products in the market. And today, Scrum is among the most widely used frameworks in the software development industry. Companies adopting this framework have generated immense value with adaptive solutions in solving complex problems while bringing various innovative products to the market and boasting satisfied customers with that. Although Scrum may seem very recent, its origins actually can be traced back to 1986, when the term Scrum appeared for the first time in the field of product development, actually in a Harvard Business Review article titled "The New Product Development Game." And Takuchi and Nanoka described a new approach based on case studies in the manufacturing and automotive or printer industries that could elevate the development phase with increased speed and flexibility. And they called this approach the holistic or rugby approach, as the entire process depends on one cross-functional team for multiple phases in development, which resembles rugby with one passing the ball to one another till the completion of the work. People tend to use Agile and Scrum synonymously, as Scrum is associated with continuous improvement, which is a critical component of Agile principles. However, it's understood that Scrum is a framework while Agile is centered around building the Agile mindset in developers. And Scrum framework enables you to integrate Agile principles in the developmental phases. So the primary question is, what is Scrum's approach in development? The Scrum approach suggests continuous learning, adjustment, and improvement due to various fluctuations in development. It emphasizes that the teams are unaware of every aspect of the project initially and can evolve only through experience. In all likelihood, during development, there are chances of changes in the customer's requirements. Therefore, Scrum enables teams to reprioritize and maintain the shorter release cycles by continuously evolving and learning to improve throughout the development lifecycle. And Scrum requires a specific set of values. Value number one is commitment, meaning teams must personally commit themselves to achieve the objectives. And next we have courage, which is something that guides teams to do the right thing, even when working on complex challenges and problems. And then we have value number three, which is focus, which involves concentrating on the work identified for the sprint and the team goals. Another critical value is openness, which specifies that team members and stakeholders should be open to one another about the work and the challenges encountered during the development process. And finally, respect is yet another value that explains the importance of respect for each other to be capable and independent. And before we move on to Scrum Events, we need to understand the prominent roles in Scrum. And first up, we have the Scrum product owner, who's responsible for establishing communication between the development team and the customers. The product owner ensures that the expectations for a completed product are clearly communicated and agreed upon. Next, the Scrum Master, who are the experts for Scrum within their teams. They train and coach teams and product owners, and they also refine the practices and improve the workflows and delivery. And the final role is the development team. The member of these teams are responsible for developing the releases of the final product. And these professionals are well equipped with the knowledge of Scrum and Agile practices and are often certified professionals with industry recognized Scrum certifications. And with this, we now move on to Scrum Events. The Scrum framework is well known for providing regularity by suggesting frequent events, ceremonies, which we covered in another video, or meetings between Scrum teams. The first event we'll take a look at is the sprint, and the sprint is related to the time frame, which tends to be around 2 weeks or a month. And sometimes you can even get it down to a single week, and during which Scrum teams focus on delivering an increment. And it is advised that the more complex the work is, the longer the sprint should be. The typical characteristics of sprint include a consistent duration throughout the developmental phase, Besides, a new sprint begins after the previous sprint, but it's essential to know that the start dates and end dates of a sprint are permanently fixed. Up next is sprint planning. Sprint planning is an event that occurs during a sprint when the Scrum teams discuss which items belong to the product backlog that they should work on during that sprint. Essentially, the sprint planning occurs in two steps, with the first step involving agreement between teams and the product owner about the product backlog items that should be included in the sprint. And the second part focuses on delivering these product backlog items, considered the shippable product increment. And these items are identified for delivery from the sprint backlog. And now let's talk about the daily scrums. A daily scrum is a short discussion between the team members to coordinate the daily activities. But this is not part of any performance evaluation or problem-solving necessities. We also have sprint reviews, which serve to review the results by the entire team at the end of a sprint. And this review includes discussions and demonstrations and allows stakeholders to use the product and receive feedback. However, this feedback is registered in the product backlog for future alterations. And after the sprint review, the product owners and the team identify the focal areas that require modifications in the future at the end of a sprint. And this approach is known as a sprint retrospective, where the key focus is to identify the errors and look for areas of improvement in the next sprint. And we'll now dive into the Scrum artifacts. Mainly the artifacts include the product backlog, sprint backlog, product increment, and burn down. The product backlog refers to the work that remains to be completed. The development team discusses with the business owners to identify the backlogs that need to be prioritized. Besides, the product backlog can be modified with the help of a process called backlog refinement, which we mentioned a bit earlier. And next we have the sprint backlog, which relates to listing the tasks that need to be completed before delivering the specific product backlog items. And finally, product increment refers to identifying the items that have been accomplished during the sprint, including all the product backlog items and items created during the previous sprints as well. Basically, we can reflect on development progress during the product increment and really understand how fast we're moving. And last but not least, the burn down is a chart that provides a visual representations of the work that remains to be completed in a sprint. And these burn down charts are practical tools to identify whether a sprint or release is moving as scheduled to be delivered by the agreed upon date and how well expectations have been set. And we've discussed various aspects of Scrum, but the critical point is, why should you use the Scrum process? Well, the Scrum framework is simple and easy to understand. The events, artifacts, and roles are well defined, which helps to improve the performance with regular evaluations and discussions to incorporate refined and more innovative approaches toward the final product. Moreover, managing complex projects becomes easier with planned events, and clearly defined roles helps bring transparency and ownership throughout the developmental lifecycle. Besides, Scrum allows teams to achieve quicker releases that keep the development teams and also users delighted. Scrum also enables collaborative effort with more control over the workflow, with risk and error identification to help mitigate them with appropriate resolutions to deliver a high-quality product. And there you have it, everything from the history of Scrum to how it allows development teams to deliver it well when handling complex projects and products. We have also covered the fundamental values and components of Scrum that helps simplify the development phases as well, including things like artifacts. And if you feel like you have a much better idea of what Scrum is, then make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, where we come out with all sorts of content on how to build great products. And again, my name is Josh. I'm one of the founders of Product HQ, and I'll go ahead and see you in some of our following videos. Cheers.